Hello, my friends. Can you all hear me? Frank is here. Hello, Frank. Good to see you. Thank you all. Those who have joined already. And I'm probably going to wait for a minute for more of our friends to tune in. Let's see. Frank is here from Florida. Bill is here. Hello, Bill. Bill says, "Good evening, Tosif." Yes, loud and clear. Wonderful. Yeah, I had forgotten to click on a certain button that I need to press in order for the mic to work. So anyway, I did that. So it's working fine. Great. My friends, thank you for tuning in. The time right now is 11:03, 11:04 p.m. here in the Central Time Zone. So I'm glad to be doing another live stream. Good evening, everyone. Um, Maybe I should wait for another minute and allow time for people to tune in. Okay. We're going to wait for some of our friends to join before moving forward with the discussion. But I'm so glad that I'm able to do live streams daily again. And obviously, there is no shortage of topics. There are so many things that we can talk about. Today, I'm going to talk about really two broad topics. And there are other topics that I wish to discuss, which I guess I'll have to wait until the next live stream because I can't cover everything in one live stream. Okay, so we're going to get started, my friends. Please make sure that as you are tuning in, that you like this video. Like this video, subscribe if you have not done so already, and also share this video, something that you can do right now. If you are on Facebook, if you are on X, if you are on Truth Social, you can share this video. You can share a link to this live stream on Facebook. You can share a link to this live stream on X and also on Truth Social. So please do that if you have not done so already. My friends, we're going to talk about, first of all, a Senate race that the GOP cannot afford to lose. We're going into 2026 with our discussion. When I say a Senate race that the GOP cannot afford to lose, I am talking about a Senate race in 2022. Can anyone tell me which state I'm going to be discussing? Can anyone tell me which state I'm going to be talking about? Just make a guess. I'm going to give you maybe 30 seconds. See who comes up with what guess. All right, you know what? I'm just going to give you the answer. Okay, too much of suspense. Georgia. Georgia is a very crucial state. In American politics, Georgia has a very special place. And one might easily conclude that Georgia is a red state, which I like to believe. It is a red state. However, as we saw in the past years, that somehow John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, both Democrats, ended up winning the U.S. Senate races in Georgia, replacing David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler. Anyway, we have to look ahead. We have to focus on the road that is in front of us. We have to focus on the future. If we want to win, like we won in 2024, that was historic. November 2024 was historic. But the next election is coming up soon. And I'm going to be talking about a Senate race that we cannot afford to lose, that the GOP, that the Republicans cannot afford to lose. And so we're going to talk about the Senate race that's coming up in Georgia. And I'm still shocked when I think about the fact that David Perdue was not declared the winner. When I think about the fact that Kelly Loeffler was not declared the winner in those Senate races. And what happened? What happened? We lost two Senate seats. Two Senate seats that should have been in Republican control. We lost both of those Senate seats in Georgia. Jamie is here. Jamie, good to see you. Thanks for tuning in. How did that happen? Now we can talk about what happened in Georgia, but what's the point? We're going to have to move forward into the future. AC Cruz is here from Arizona. AC, so good to see you. Thank you for being here. Everyone who's tuning in, thank you. So let's talk about the future. Let's talk about what's ahead. We must defeat Jon Ossoff in 2026. Do you agree with me? The Republicans must defeat Jon Ossoff in the U.S. Senate race in 2026. Teresa is here. Teresa from Arizona. So we got our friend AC Cruz from Arizona. We got Teresa from Arizona. So Arizona is well represented in today's live stream discussion. Thank you, our friends from Arizona. AC and Teresa, thank you for being here. And we're going to be talking about Arizona too. Very soon. Very soon we're going to be talking about Arizona. Because Arizona is going to be a very important state going forward, no matter what election you're talking about, okay? I mean, the Republicans have a lot of room for improvement in Arizona. We're going to have to win some statewide races in Arizona, okay, in the future, so that we can get some more Senate seats and maybe win the gubernatorial race too. Anyway, my friends, what I want to focus on is the U.S. Senate race in Georgia. Jon Ossoff. Okay, he can be defeated in 2026 if the Republicans unite, if they work hard, if they come up with a great candidate. Okay, so Ossoff running for re-election, and I've talked about Georgia in the past. And some thought that Brian Kemp, the governor, the Georgia governor, Brian Kemp, he might run for U.S. Senate. Why? Because he has a term limit. He will not be able to run for re-election as governor. So that's an option for him. He could run for U.S. Senate, another statewide race. He has won statewide races in the past. So many people thought that, oh, this is a great pick. This is a great pick. If he decides to run, Brian Kemp, he's the governor. He won gubernatorial races, statewide races. So he just has to run and win another statewide race, this time for the Senate, and defeat Jon Ossoff. Many people thought that he's going to be a great candidate if he decides to run. Someone who could have defeated Ossoff. However, Brian Kemp decided not to run for U.S. Senate. Have you heard that? Some of you may be hearing it from me. Others, maybe you've already seen the news that Brian Kemp is not going to run for US Senate, at least not in 2026. This is a decision that people were waiting to find out what Brian Kemp decides to do, and finally we know that he's not running. I'm going to share with you something that Brian Kemp posted on X. Tommy Brown is here. Tommy Brown, good to see you. Good to see you, Tommy Brown. And maybe other friends have joined too. If I missed greeting you, I apologize. If I could not greet you by name. Oh, Sky Blue is here. Sky Blue. Sky Blue, good to see you. All right, who else is here? Anyone else? Let's see. All right. Okay. We're going to go back to the discussion. Governor Brian Kemp wrote on X. He wrote, over the last few weeks, I have had many conversations with friends, supporters, and leaders across the country. Okay. And why did he have these conversations? Because I guess he was trying to make a decision whether to run for Senate or not. And he said, this is Brian Kemp writing, he said that his friends, his supporters, and leaders across the country encouraged him to run for US Senate in 2026. And he said that he greatly appreciates their support and prayers for his family. But you know what? Brian Kemp then goes on to say, he goes on to say that he has decided that being on the ballot next year is not the right decision for him and his family. He also writes that he spoke with President Trump and Senate leadership, and he expressed his commitment to work alongside them to ensure that we have a strong Republican nominee who can win next November, and ultimately a conservative voice in the US Senate who will put hardworking Georgians first. It creates a huge vacuum, I think. You can share with me what your thoughts are. I think this creates a vacuum. He was one person that a lot of people focused on, and people thought, he cannot run for re-election as governor again because of term limit. Georgia needs somebody to run for US Senate. It's a natural choice, Brian Kemp. But now that he has decided not to run for Senate, it creates a huge vacuum. Now the question is, who's going to run against Jon Ossoff? If Ossoff gets reelected in 2026, I want you to understand what's going to happen. He's going to have another 6-year term. A U.S. Senate term is 6 years. If Jon Ossoff wins in 2026, he's going to have a brand new 6-year term. And the next opportunity to defeat Jon Ossoff would be in 2032. Far, far away. Can you imagine that? So this 2026 Georgia Senate race is extremely important. This is a race that the Republicans cannot afford to lose. Now, 2026 November might seem far away. It is not. Scene is your high scene. It's not that far away. For a U.S. Senate race in Georgia, A lot of money has to be raised by the Republicans in order to win against John Ossoff, and the Democrat machine will use their full power in that race to try to hold on to that seat. Ossoff is likely going to have a huge campaign funds chest. He's probably going to have a lot of money for his campaign. So the Republicans must unite and find the right candidate who's going to have the willingness and the ability to defeat John Ossoff. But who is going to be that candidate? My friends, I'm going to pause here for a second. Scene is here. Selena is here. Thank you. Thank you both for joining. Good to see you. Who's going to be that candidate to run against John Ossoff? I don't know. As of now, there probably isn't any. We thought maybe Brian Kemp, but now he's not going to run. And then who? There's another name that has come up. Does anyone have any idea which name came up as a possible candidate for U.S. Senate in Georgia? Can you tell me? Can anyone make a guess? Just make a guess. There's another name that came up. John says no clue. All right. Anyone else? I'm going to give you a few more seconds. Another name that came up in Georgia about a possible Senate candidate from the Republican side. Okay. Do you know this individual by the name of Marjorie Taylor Greene? Do you know Marjorie Taylor Greene? Who knows Marjorie Taylor Greene? Tell me. Jamie is saying MTG. Yep. Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's a widely known figure, very outspoken. People have mixed views about her, but that's common in politics. If you are a high profile political figure, if you are always in the news, if you are very outspoken, then people draw conclusions, people make up their own opinions about that political figure, and that's exactly what is true in the case of Marjorie Taylor Greene. People have different opinions about her. Some people love her and some people don't. And that's what happens when you speak out loudly and you are not afraid to share your thoughts. Now, is Marjorie Taylor Greene going to be a strong candidate for U.S. Senate in Georgia? One might say yes, that's a great choice. And some might say no. Marjorie Taylor Greene is a strong Trump ally. And that's a positive. That's a good sign. That's a good news. That's a good point. She's a strong Trump ally. But some might say that she may have a difficult time winning votes from independent voters, moderate voters, people who often switch their votes. Sometimes they vote for Democrats, sometimes they vote for Republicans, the real swing voters. One might say that Marjorie Taylor Greene, because of her strong political views, because of how outspoken she is, because of how strong she is in the delivery of her opinions, the way she presents herself in the media, she's a very, very widely known political figure. And so some might say that's not going to help with independent voters, moderate voters. Marjorie Taylor Greene clearly is not a moderate. She's pretty far right. And being far right may be good for her congressional district, but when you're looking at a statewide race, it might be quite challenging. And I'm just presenting the facts. There are some political figures out there, some Republicans, some Democrats, but they are so moderate that people don't have strong opinions about them. I don't want to give you examples right now, but there are those figures. Maybe a Republican, maybe a Democrat, but really moderate, okay? Not very aggressive, not very loud and outspoken, likes to take, you know, a middle of the road approach rather than leaning to the left or to the right. There are those figures. And Marjorie Taylor Greene is not that. She has strong opinions and she is not afraid to express those opinions, which people love. People love that about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yeah, Jamie is saying Marjorie does not sugarcoat anything. She does not. She has a very strong presence. When the camera shows the House floor, and if Marjorie Taylor Greene is there, chances are high that the camera will, you know, move towards Marjorie Taylor Greene, and she will be shown on screen. Now that's great. Republicans love that. Republicans love her personality. But when you are looking at winning independent voters, swing voters, moderate voters, she may have a tough time with that. And that's a fact. That's a fact. So I'm not saying that she can't win the Georgia Senate race. If there's a primary, she may win the primary. If she moves on to the general election, she may win the general election. But you cannot guarantee anything. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think there needs to be a thorough study of the political landscape of Georgia. One needs to study thoroughly the political landscape of Georgia before coming to a conclusion about whether or not Marjorie Taylor Greene will be the right candidate for the Senate race. You can share with me your thoughts, my friends. I'm going to look at the screen here. Let's see what our friends are saying. Give me 1 second. I'm going to move the mic a little closer. Yeah, Papa is saying she speaks what's on her mind and she don't care what anybody thinks. That's true. And that's something that a lot of people like. A lot of people like that, because there are politicians who, using the word that, who mentioned that? Jamie mentioned that. Marjorie Taylor Greene doesn't sugarcoat anything. There are politicians out there, they sugarcoat stuff. They sugarcoat stuff. And what people think about those politicians is that they're not trustworthy. Political figures who sugarcoat stuff, they'll tell you what you want to hear. You can't really trust them. But if there's a political figure out there who speaks honestly, and you may disagree with them, but you may still appreciate the fact that they say what's on their mind. So we have to analyze the political landscape of Georgia and try to figure out, okay, the last few Senate races were not good for the Republicans in Georgia. If Marjorie Taylor Greene runs, in that statewide race, in that Senate race. Is she going to win? Is she going to win? Maybe she will. Maybe she won't. I don't know. If we have friends from Georgia who are tuning in, I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts. If you have lived in Georgia, or if you live in Georgia right now, if you are knowledgeable about Georgia politics, share with me your thoughts. Share with me your thoughts, my friends. And then there's another question. If Marjorie Taylor Greene runs for US Senate, then who's going to run for her House seat? Somebody would need to run for that House seat. We cannot afford to lose the seats in the House. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's got a House seat. If she runs for Senate, if she wins Senate, naturally the question would be, we don't want to lose that House seat. We want another Republican to win that seat. Who's that going to be? So I'm not an expert in Georgia politics. I don't know the day-to-day political stuff that happens in Georgia. I mean, what is the Georgia state legislature working on? What is the governor doing? What bills are being signed? What are some polls that are being conducted in Georgia? I haven't had that opportunity to study all that. Maybe I will. Maybe going into 2026, I will. I just have to allocate more time to focus on Georgia politics. I'm not saying I won't do that. I will, because I plan to go state by state by state for 2026 to give you analysis, just like I did for the presidential election and the Senate races in 2024. Okay. Cuba is saying the governor appoints a replacement usually. Okay. Yeah, I don't know what the process in Georgia is. Is there going to be a special election? Is the governor going to appoint someone? I mean, yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay. I'm gonna have to look into that. But you know, that's a great point. We have to think about that as well. So anyway, but then again, now let me add another layer to this discussion. We're talking about US Senate. We're talking about, okay, who's going to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene in the House if she becomes a US Senator from Georgia. But then again, there's another opportunity in front of Marjorie Taylor Greene. She could run for governor. She could run in the gubernatorial race in Georgia. Because as I said, Brian Kemp is facing a term limit. So Brian Kemp is not going to run. He is not going to be able to run for re-election. He is not going to be able to run in the governor's race in Georgia for re-election. And so Marjorie Taylor Greene could decide to run for Senate. She could decide to run for governor. It's a very different position than the Senate. Being in the Senate means you are in the federal legislative branch of government. But being the state's governor means that you are in the executive branch of the state government. Now it's up to Marjorie Taylor Greene to decide what she wants to do. Is she going to stay in the House of Representatives? Is she going to run for US Senate? Is she going to run for governor of Georgia? I have a feeling that she has ambitions for higher office. That's just me making an assumption. I don't know for sure. I feel that she wants to run for higher office. So let's wait and see what Marjorie Taylor Greene decides. In any case, the races are going to be very important, the Georgia Senate race and the Georgia gubernatorial race. I'm just I'm just preparing all of you for the excitement, for the anticipation that's coming up. I know we just started the new year, and here we are. We are already in May. We are quickly approaching the middle of the year. And then we're going to go into the second half of the year. And time just goes by really fast. Time just goes by really fast. Keep in mind, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a Trump ally. That is important. So going into 2026, there's going to be a lot of anticipation, a lot of excitement, a lot of analysis, lots of prediction. And I plan to discuss all of that right here on this channel. So stay connected with me. Now, my friends, let's move on to the second part of today's live stream. Let's talk about AOC. Who wants to talk about AOC? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. So many questions about AOC. What is her plan? No doubt AOC has ambitions, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And AOC is far left, and she's just the polar opposite of Marjorie Taylor Greene. Marjorie Taylor Greene is on the far right. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is on the far left. Now, AOC has been in the news. Reportedly, there were questions about whether AOC is going to seek the top Democrat post on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee. She previously ran for that position, AOC did, but she did not get that post. And now the congressman who has that position, that is the top Democrat post on the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee, that Democrat congressman has decided not to seek re-election because of personal health challenges. And so people thought maybe AOC is going to run for that committee seat, but reportedly she has decided not to. She has decided not to run for that committee post. So people are still trying to figure out what AOC has in her mind. It's becoming more and more clear every day that AOC is likely going to seek higher office. But what does that mean? Is she going to run for US Senate? Maybe. Will she challenge Senator Chuck Schumer in a primary? Maybe. Or maybe Schumer won't run for re-election and it'll just be an open pathway for AOC to run for Senate. Who knows? But then the other question is AOC going to run for president in 2028? We don't know. We do know that AOC has kept herself very busy trying to raise her profile and do all the rallies and events with Bernie Sanders and other socialists. And in the process, as many would say, in the process, AOC has neglected her congressional district. And people in her district are not happy. And that's a very, very bad sign for a political figure, especially if the political figure has desire for higher office. So here's what I will say. The Republicans must understand the real possibility that AOC might run for US Senate or she might run for president. And the Republicans must not underestimate AOC. I know she has crazy policy ideas. I know she is a socialist, and we reject socialism, and we assume that everyone's going to reject socialism. But the reality is that AOC has lots of fans and followers. Yes, socialism is an absolute nonsense. But then we see that AOC has lots of fans and followers. So the Republicans must understand the real possibility that AOC might run for Senate or president. And the Republicans must never underestimate AOC. And the fact that such a socialist made her way to Congress, that is a warning sign itself. So the Republicans must work hard and ensure that they defeat AOC at the earliest possibility. If she runs for re-election in the House, and if she can be defeated in the congressional race, then that's great. That's going to be the best thing. But if she continues to be in Congress and then she decides to run for Senate, the Republicans must defeat her. If she decides to run for president, the Republicans must defeat her. It is important to defeat AOC, especially because she is a socialist, not just a regular Democrat. She is an extremely far left socialist. So, my friends, it's a very short live stream. Okay. I had a long day and I'm going to try to get some rest, but I wanted to do a live stream. So, this is going to be a very short live stream. I um I appreciate you all being here. Uh okay, Helena is here. Hi Helena. I'm reading your comment, Helena. I'm going to address Helena's comment later. Helena wants me to do a map analysis. That's what I'm going to do. I told you for 2026 I am going to go state by state by state and I am going to provide my analysis about the different races, the gubernatorial races, the Senate races. I will talk about all that. It's coming up. I'm going to keep this live stream very short. I'm going to end the poll. The question was, do you think that Democrat Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez will run for president in 2028? And most of the people said, hold on. Most of the people said no. Wow, 60% of the people said that Democrat Congresswoman AOC is not going to run for president in 2028. 60% said she is not going to run for president. Um, okay, great. So then my next question should have been, do you think AOC is going to run for US Senate in New York? But I'm not going to ask that question tonight. I appreciate you all being here, my friends. I just humbly request that you please subscribe and stay connected to this channel, okay? Tonight, it's a short live stream, but I'm going to be doing longer live streams, and I'm also going to be publishing podcast episodes. So please stay connected with me. Share with me your thoughts. You can go to my website, tossifanam.net. You can also email me. My email address is tossif@tossifanam.net. So we're going to keep our eyes on Georgia. Definitely. We're going to see what happens, who decides to run for US Senate in Georgia, who decides to run for governor. And we are also going to follow AOC's actions. We're gonna try to observe her actions, and we are going to analyze her actions and try to figure out if she is going to run for Senate or president, or is she just going to try to hold on to her seat in the House. So lots to talk about. Thank you so very much, my friends, for tuning in tonight. May God bless you all. May God bless our President Donald J. Trump. May God bless the Trump administration. May God bless the United States of America. May God bless our U.S. allies. And may God bless freedom loving people all over the world. With that, thank you so very much, my friends, for tuning in. Have a wonderful night. And I'm going to be back again with more videos and more live stream very soon. Thank you.